So you'll get a notification saying that you're okay with the recording or not. So of course you have to take it. And all right, so let me start with the presentation and we'll go from there. All right, guys, good morning. And thank you for joining us on this cold Friday morning. I don't know whether it's cold or not at your place. Welcome to JND323. The unit is managerial and leadership skills. Just for you to know that this is going to be one of the easiest units you will study in your course. It's a cruise. You can just breeze through this unit. You can be half asleep and breeze through this unit. But saying that there are always those 2-3 students every year that somehow don't listen to what I say, and then they mess up and they fail. So I don't want you guys to be those students. So make sure you do the needful, and you should not face any struggle in passing this unit. I'm sure you've got some feedback from your previous batchmates. Today's lecture is the most important lecture because today I'll take you through the unit outline and what you are expected to do. We'll also take you through Milo so that you can navigate your way through Milo. And I'll also take you through the first lecture. So we've been asked to keep the lectures short, and that's why you have seen that I have some pre-recorded lectures on Milo already. The reason is because there is not much scope of interaction in this unit. So it's pretty much a one-way communication which is going to happen here. And this is not ideally the way I would like to teach this unit. But the advantage is that we don't have to wear pants when listening to or rather attending the lecture. So that's the advantage. Yeah. So who am I without my jokes or my sarcastic humor? I'm nothing. So yeah, I'll try to keep this short. So the important thing is that if you have any questions, any queries, any concerns, feel free to use the chat function, or you can email me, or you can use the break time to interact with me. I'll be here sitting when I give you guys a break. So every 45 minutes, I'll give you a 15 minutes break and we'll start on the clock again. And every now and then, if I ask you, are there any questions? Maybe there will be many of you who want to ask questions and you can't get your voice through. Just use the chat function, put your question up there. You can send a private message or you can send a public message, and I'll be happy to answer it. If not during the lecture, then I'll answer it later on, or you can just email it to me if you're shy or something like that. All right, so let's get started with JND323. Its unit's name is Managerial and Leadership Skills. So today's program is that I will be taking you through the unit outline. First, the essential bits and pieces of the unit outline. So the unit outline, if you don't know already, it's available on Milo. I hope you've downloaded it. When I later take you, when the second half of the lecture or the second hour of the lecture, when I take you through Milo, I'll show you where the unit outline is or where all the important content is. Make sure you are with me during that lecture as well. I will also make this lecture available on Milo. It will be probably through a YouTube link so you can access it. Otherwise, let me know if you're having any struggles. If you can access Milo, if you can see me on Milo, or rather not me, but the unit on Milo, that means you're enrolled on Milo. And that's why it's very important that you go on Milo and check whether you can see this unit on your Milo. I'm assuming if you are here, you must be on Milo. All right. So that is the first thing, that you must have access to the unit outline. I'm going to take you through the unit outline. But before that, I must introduce myself. So I've introduced the unit, which is JND323. And for long distance students, of course, I am the lecturer as well as the unit coordinator. My name is Samrat, but please call me Sam. Sam will be easy for all of you to pronounce. If you don't know what Samrat means, that means emperor, but I have no connections to the royal family. All right, but anyhow, let's keep going. What you can also see is my email address, and that is the most important thing for you, because you have to correspond with me primarily through email. And that also means that I will be sending a lot of emails to you as well throughout the semester. So make sure you access your emails and your Milo. These are the only two things we'll use for communication. So make sure you have access to that. All right. My room number and consultation hours is not important because we are not doing face-to-face teaching, but make sure that you have access to my email. All right. then I'll just tell you what this unit is all about. So this unit is building up on the leadership and team working skills. If you have done it, it's a short course. If you are not speaking, mute your mic. I'm getting some background noise, so just mute your mic if you're not speaking. Otherwise, it's a bit disturbing. Yeah. All right. Thank you for that. So this unit is going to be a build up on the second year unit of, or rather the second year short course of leadership and team working skills. I don't know if you guys have done it or not. Some of you may have done it with me, but some of you have not. So probably you'll be asked to do it sometime or the other, but that is a short course of 3 days. This is a much broader course. It involves a lot more things than leadership and team working. And we have a lot of conventions as well, which you will find very useful for preparing for oral examination. All right. Of course, this unit, managerial and leadership skills, was introduced as a result of the 2010 Manila Amendments of STCW, where they realized that seafarers are lacking these kind of skills compared to other industries, and they wanted us, or rather trainers, to build up these skills right from second year, or rather from right from pre-C to watchkeeper level to chief engineers and chief mates. That is your management level, right? So that's why whatever we study or we learn about in this unit will be all from a managerial aspect. I don't like to use the word master too much because then the engineers feel left out, which is rightly so. So I will use the word manager. When I use the word manager, I mean a senior officer, or I might use the word senior officer throughout my lectures. So that means I'm including master, chief engineer, second engineer, chief officer, or whatever the senior hierarchy is or hierarchy is on your ship as well. Kunal, good to see you, buddy. Long time no see.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, hi. And so we'll keep going. So this unit, as you can see, these are your learning outcomes. You have to make sure that you do the needful assessments to tick all the learning outcomes. So you can see the first two learning outcomes is specifically related to leadership, managerial, and team working skills. I'll be assessing this in the midterm, or rather the end of term exam, what is called these days. You don't call it midterm, it's the end of term exam. We'll talk about that. And then you can see learning outcomes 3, 4, and 5, which is very important for you guys, especially when you go for oral examinations. A lot of questions are asked from these learning points. So we'll be talking about that as well. That will be assessed through your final assessment. So we'll talk about that as well. All right. So the first two is through the end of term assessment. And the last 3 is through the final assessment. All right. So there's no midterm assessment. So I won't use that word midterm. All right, then the most important thing is your assessments. Now, assessments are kept minimum because you guys are learning via distance, and we should try to keep things easy for you. Like I said at the very beginning, that this is the easiest unit you will study. So you have only 2 assessments to complete. The assessment task 1 is a case study, which is in week 39. That would be the week of 25th of September. If I'm not wrong, I'll check the dates again when we discuss the assessment. Now, case study is to be answered individually, and I'll show you guys how to do that. We'll go on Milo, and Milo will be used to implement the case study, and you will be using Milo as well to answer the case study. The case study and the example and everything, we'll talk about that. If you don't know what a case study is, I'll show you an example that I used in the last year's exam. So you can see that case study, and when you see the case study, you will realize that you can answer it today itself. It's an easy exam, it's not a big deal, but how well you answer it depends on how well you understand the requirements of this unit. So that's the point. And then we have the second assessment, which will be a group assignment. And I know you guys are located, not located on the campus, you are not together. But we'll talk about that as well. The reason I have an individual as well as a group assignment is because the name of this unit is managerial and leadership skills. So you need to show your individual leadership as well as your ability to work in teams. That's an essential skill. So that's why the group assignment, and we'll talk about the group assignment later on. Any questions so far? All right. So I tend to speak a bit fast. So if you're struggling to understand me or my accent or anything else, feel free to just use the chat function or email me immediately as you have a question and I'll answer you. All right, I'll keep going. So the first assessment task, like I said before, you are required to individually answer questions based on a case study. It will be a closed book assessment. It will be a 1-hour assessment. You will have to go on Milo, read the case study, and then analyze the case study by identifying issues related to management, leadership, communication, teamwork, human behavior, conflict, decision making, problem solving. These are the basic topics we'll be covering initially, and you will have to analyze the case study and identify issues which are there, and also provide me with strategies to address those issues. Pretty straightforward, simple, just require common sense. Like I said, most of you will be able to do it right now. If I give the exam right now, you will be able to do it. It's easy, but we'll see how we go. All right, there's no pass mark, of course, for the end of term assessment. It's called assessment task 1, and whatever marks you get, 30% of that will be carried towards your final aggregate mark. The exam will be held in week 39, that is the week of 25th of September. So you will see the exam marked on your timetables, and I'll keep reminding you as well as we get closer to the date. All right. This is another important slide for you guys to make a note of. Like I said, there will be a lot of topics that we'll be covering in this unit. A lot of it is related to your orals and your work at sea as well. Conventions are covered as well. So be very clear on what you have to study for your end of term or your midterm exam, and what you have to cover for your final group assessment. So like I said, that the topics of communication, which I'll cover today, and management skills, leadership, individual and group management, and conflict management. These are the topics. These are the first 5 topics we'll be covering in this unit, and this is what will be assessed in the leadership skill, or rather in the case study in the midterm or the end of term exam. All right, then we have assessment task 2. Like I said, this will be in the form of a group assignment. I'll talk about that as well, and how we can form the groups and how you guys can work together. But you have to work together. So students will be allocated into groups by the unit coordinator. But what I do is I initially give you the opportunity to form groups, because I know that some of you would like to work with your preferred people. So I'll talk about that on how we can form the groups. I'll send a Google document out to you guys today itself, and you can start updating that Google document. You can put in your names in your preferred group. You can talk to your friends. I'll give you guys a few weeks rather to talk to your friends, get to know people, and then start including your names in the groups. And it will be uploaded, or rather it will be updated live, so everybody can see who has been already who's already part of a group and who's not. But yes, start talking to your friends already. The groups will be 3 to 4 students only, not less than 3 and not more than 4. Because you will have a few questions to answer and you need to distribute the workload. It cannot be too much, it cannot be very less, but it's an easy assessment if you do the needful. But we'll talk about that later when we talk about group assessment. All right, you'll get 2 weeks to complete this assessment. I will release this assessment just after your end of term or midterm exam, and then I'll give you guys 2 weeks to finish it. The due date is 12th of October. And the reason I keep it 12th of October is because, like I said, this is the easiest unit you'll be studying. So you can be done and over with it by 12th of October, and then you can focus on the more important units that require your attention, maybe math-based units or something else, and you can focus on that for the rest of the after 12th of October and prepare yourself for the exams then. All right, that's my idea every time, but let me know if you have any concerns or queries. For the group assessment, of course, I'll make you guys answer questions based on these topics. As you can see, these topics are related to your work at sea. These are all conventions that you have to be very familiar with, especially because you guys are going to be senior officers one day. You have to be very familiar with occupational health and safety, shipboard training, we're talking about STCW convention, onboard training, maritime labor convention, FAL convention, shipboard financial management, the ISM code, then how to manage emergencies at sea, like deaths at sea, the drug and alcohol policies, rescue operations carried out at sea, and if you find stowaways at sea. And we'll also be talking about taking over command as a senior officer, whether it's chief engineer or master, and also we'll be talking about articles of agreement. So these are all from a legal perspective, conventions. You can see, this will be important. So the questions I designed will require you to go into the internet and research on this topic. but just to keep it easy, we'll keep it a group assignment so that you don't have to answer all the questions. But whatever question you take up, you have to do it well. All right, so we'll keep going. Any questions you guys have at this stage, or you want to send it through a chat function? No questions? All right, otherwise just use the break or use the email. All right, finally, your final result, you have to complete all assessments and you have to make sure that you achieve a 50% overall. So even if you fail, in the end of term exam, there's nothing called fail, but if you get less than 50% in the midterm or end of term exam, then you have to do better in the final exam. So 30% of what you get in the midterm exam, or what I call end of term exam, is what will be carried forward, and then 70% of what you get in the final exam is also carried forward as well. So when I say final exam, I mean group assignment, and when I say end of term, I mean the midterm assessment, which is the individual. All right, any confusions with those terms? No? All right. So the reason I have kept 30% for the midterm is because that's the first one, and you are still finding your foot. And if you don't do well, then at least you get an opportunity to catch up in the final assessment, which is a much easier assessment, a group assessment, and you can bring your A game there and get more marks, and that will help you to pass the unit. That's how I have distributed it. All right, submission of assignments, I'll show you that function as well. It has to be done using the Milo Dropbox, and you will have separate Dropboxes for Launceston students and New South Wales students. I'm not too concerned with the New South Wales students here because I'm assuming you are all Launceston students, and I'll show you how to use the Dropbox and how to submit your assignment as well. It has to be done by 1700 hours on the due date, which is the 12th of October. Normally extensions will not be granted unless there are some extenuating circumstances. That means that if you can't do the assignment for some reason, maybe you are sick, then you have to produce some evidence that you need maybe a medical certificate or something like that. So that is for Launceston students. For New South Wales students, I believe Tej is not teaching there anymore, so it is Ian Gray, but that you can discuss with your lecturer. I am here only for the Launceston students anyway. All right. Penalties, of course, you all know what penalties are. If you are late in submission after 5 days, I will not accept it, and each day you will be losing 10% of your marks. All right. Required readings. Now, this is the most important bit. People often ask me, what do I need to read? So I always tell them that what I have on Milo is more than enough for you guys. As it is, you have lots to read, lots to study. I don't want to make your lives harder. So whatever you find on Milo in my unit is more than enough for you to pass this unit, as well as to do very well in your orals examination and to get a knowledge of the conventions. But of course, I always recommend that the more you read, the more knowledge is there, and I'll show you what I mean by that. And there are also additional videos I have made that I have not put on Milo, but you can go and watch them on my YouTube channel, and I'll take you through that as well. All right, but more or less. Now, this is another important slide for you guys, is because here I put up the previous feedback or the constructive criticism that I get or I have got from the students. And if you have something similar to ask me as well, this will be very useful for you to see. So the first thing is, of course, about the lectures, but I also talk about the previous feedback as well. So the lectures, like I said, a 10-minute or 10 to 15 minutes summarized lecture is already available on Milo in the contents tab. I'm sure you have seen it. It's also there on my YouTube channel under the playlist Vessel Management, so you can access there as well. The reason is because, like I told you before, that although we'll be having lectures here on Zoom, we have been asked to put pre-recorded lectures because this is not an interactive platform. So there's no point of me making you sit here for hours and you listening to me. So if you can use that option and just listen to that lecture instead of sitting here and asking me. These sessions have been designed for more of for an interaction. So if you have any questions, any concerns, any queries, if you're struggling, if you are located internationally, and so these are more for that purpose, that we can interact one-on-one. and more for, you can ask me questions and I'll answer it, but we'll have some lectures as well, but you can access them. Then also I'll be recording these Zoom sessions and making it available on Milo through the YouTube link. It's easier for me, and it will be a private link. So I'll be sending you guys private links. So it will not be for public viewing. Nobody else can hear or see these lectures. Only you guys can see it. So don't worry about that. But yeah, make sure that you can access those videos. But let me know if you can't, and I'll be happy to provide you with some alternative. But those will be private links, which I'll send it out to you guys only. All right. Alternatively, of course, like I said, my YouTube channel is there, Steering Mariners. And on Steering Mariners, of course, I'll take you guys through that channel as well. And the reason I do that is not for advertisement purpose only, which is, of course, one of the purpose. But yes, you can access more than 600 videos on those channels. And I know that many of those videos will be useful for you guys, especially if you are deck officers. But to be very honest, I have a deck background as well. I'm an ex-master mariner. So I don't have much to teach the engineers, but there's a lot of videos there. There's a lot of videos regarding conventions and regulations and other aspects. I didn't want to include everything on Milo because then it's a never ending topic. So there are many other topics I would have loved to teach you in this subject or in this unit. But I don't want to make or rather it's not part of the AMSA's approved syllabus. So you can find those videos there. I'll share that screen as well, and I'll show you the useful videos. So the channel's name is Steering Mariners. If you search it up, you can find it with my pretty face on it. And right now we are friends, so I'm going to ask you nicely to subscribe. But as I get to know you better and you understand my humor and me, I'm going to force you to subscribe as well. All right, I need subscribers, guys. All right. The first criticism I want to talk about is that the students have often said there is insufficient reading material on Milo. And that's a very fair criticism. Like I've told you guys before, you have enough to study. Why do you want to study more? But that is not the reason I don't have material on Milo. We used to give out books before, and I realized that it doesn't work very well, because when it comes to the managerial and leadership skills and all that, so when we talk about leadership, team working, conflict management, I can't summarize it in few pages, and then I can't expect you to read it and then become very good managers. It's not possible. So there are thousands and thousands of books in the library. How do I summarize all those books? There's so much knowledge, and everybody has something different to say regarding these topics. So you can't summarize it. You can't say, this is what I want you to know. That's it. No, I don't want you to do that. So that's why I put up only brief content on my PowerPoint presentations, which you don't even have to read. It's just common sense, but we'll be going through that and I'll be talking. And because each one of you will have your individual management style. I cannot tell you that there is one style and that is the best style of management. No, each one of you will have your individual style of management based on your experiences, your training, your characteristics. And there is not one single right answer to it. So what we learn through the content on Milo is basic principles, what is there in the books. Some of it may be applicable to us, some of it may not be, but the idea here is to get an idea of the principles of management and leadership, and then work on it and build on that knowledge based on what you want. So that is the reason. Regarding conventions, which is the second part, conventions keep on changing. So if I put something out there and something changes, it's difficult for me to change it midway. So what I do is I have put up the lectures, I have put up the Milo presentations there, but a week before I actually start teaching you the convention, I go online and check if there are any changes to it or not. And that's why, because I can make those changes in short notice. I don't put out any content which is permanently out there for you to see. So that is but you have insufficient reading material. I'll give you that, but that's also because you don't need it. When you see the assessment, you will realize that it's more than enough. All right. The second criticism I want to address is a couple of engineers. Engineers are very nice, actually. They have been very nice to me. I've been teaching this unit for more than 10 years now. But a couple of the people have complained, especially when they get less marks, is that the examples are very deck oriented. The case study is also very deck oriented, the exam case study. So yeah, they are right again. These are all fair criticisms. The reason is, like I told you, I'm an ex-master mariner. If I try to sound like an engineer, you will immediately know that I don't know anything about the engine room except general housekeeping. So I don't want to sound like an engineer. But yes, in the exam case study, even if it's deck oriented, I don't want you to tell me how deck officers should do their job. And as I'll show you the case study, you will see it's more about you identifying management issues. So if that case study could be based on the deck, or it could be based on any land-based organization. It could be based in a company like Coca-Cola. It could be based in a car manufacturing company. It doesn't matter. I don't want to know from you guys how they should be doing their job. I want you guys to identify issues related to leadership, management, teamwork, conflict, decision making, and then tell me what should have ideally be done. All right, that's why. But I will put up some practice case studies which will be engine room based as well, as I can find them. Right. The third criticism is this could be a distant unit. So somebody's prayers got answered. This has become like a distant unit. So there's no point of me talking about that. And then the last criticism is I don't like group assignments because I get less marks. And we'll talk about that when we talk about group assignment as well. All right, any questions so far, guys? Another 15 minutes and I'll give you guys your first break. Unless you are already on break and you're sleeping and nobody's listening to me and I'm like a fool, I'm talking. All right, hopefully not. All right, then attendance is not important at all. But what is important is that this part here. Now I'm saying this part here, but I have no idea what I'm talking about. All right. So this part here is attendance is of course not important, but yes, you have to log on to the Milo website for this unit. All right, that I have told you. And you have to contribute a comment to the discussion posted on Milo for the practice case studies. 5 of you have already done that. I appreciate it. And that's counted as a comment. So well done. You have done your bit already. I haven't responded to that because officially we didn't start yet. So I didn't want to respond to that. So what I'm going to do is, and I'll show it to you, I'll put up some practice case studies on the discussion post. And I want you guys to have a go at it. Now, there are 2 reasons. Firstly, I know that you are now enrolled in this unit. Officially, you are on Milo. You can access this unit. I can take your name because sometimes there will be issues with your enrollment. And if you go missing and then you don't do your assessment, you will fail in this unit. And I don't want that to happen. So make sure you comment. It can be any comment, just your analysis of the case study. There will be short case studies. And the second reason I want you to do that is it gives you practice for the end of term exam. And you can have a go at it. And then I'll give you guys one answer, my own analysis, for you to able to compare how you analyze and how I analyze, or how I expect you to analyze it. So that the expectations for assessments is very clear. You know exactly what you have to do to get good marks and how I expect you to answer it so that I can give you marks. All right, so make sure once I'll put up the first discussion post today, go on Milo, it will be a short case study. Just read the case study and put your analysis. All right, you can put anything. There is no right answer. Like I said, management doesn't have any right answers as long as you can justify. So if I ask you how you would discipline a person, but if you say I'm going to slap that person, no, that's not the right justification. You can't go around slapping people even though you may be the captain or the chief engineer. You have to justify why that slap is the right way, or was there another way or not. All right, so that's what I mean, that management has no right answers as long as you can justify it. So make sure you contributed a comment, because if you do not demonstrate evidence of being engaged on Milo by week 4, then your enrollment will be cancelled or you will be withdrawn, because the university is monitoring your engagement with Milo as well. That is how they monitor whether you are engaged with this unit, whether you are enrolled and you are being able to access everything or not. There are no issues. So if they see there is no movement from your side, they will cancel your enrollment. 4 weeks is after which the census date starts. So after census date, they will withdraw you. So make sure you do something. All right, 5 of you have already done it. Thank you for that. I don't want to name you guys and make you conscious, but that's counted as a comment. So be happy and you're done. Finally, before I come to the last slide, I want you guys to know this, that communication is very important in this unit, and especially because now you guys are learning via distance. You should be very clear on what is expected out of you and what you have to do to pass this unit and do well, or which will help you with your learning. I don't like to use the words pass this unit because I believe anyone with common sense and basic intelligence will pass this unit. I want you guys to learn. The more you learn, the happier it makes me. And that's why I said I started that channel on YouTube, because I realized there is lots for us to share, and we should put up whatever learning content or whatever little knowledge I have. and that's why those 600, 700 videos are there on YouTube. So keep learning, that is important. But yes, make sure you always access your email and you access your Milo, because most of the communication will be happening through email and Milo. You are expected to be aware of the content within 48 hours, and each cohort will have a student representative. I don't know how it's going to work this time, but maybe the course coordinator will take you through that, and you can bring up any issues. So if you have any issues with me, first bring it up with me. If I don't answer it, if I'm not doing a good job, you are still concerned, feel free to bring it up with the course coordinator. What we all want is that your learning should not be affected, and you guys should have a easy learning experience, learn as well as do well in the exams, and pass this unit without any hiccups. All right. Finally, the last slide for the first hour of the lecture. After that, you guys can go for a quick toilet break, or probably already you are in the toilet, I'm not sure. I don't want to know that either. But yes, this is basically telling you about the structure of the how I'll be delivering my lectures. So I don't know whether you can see it very clearly or not, but today is week 1, and the week started from 13th of July, and we are having our lecture on 17th of July because our lectures are on Fridays. But yes, date beginning is 13th of July. Today's lecture, I'll be covering introduction to the unit as well as a topic called communication. And the IMO reference number is there for audit purposes and for AMSA to know why we are doing. So these reference numbers, IMO reference numbers, is for STCW and for AMSA's syllabus. So whatever we have to do it as per AMSA. So whatever topics we cover is as per AMSA as well. So those are reference numbers. You don't have to worry about that. What you have to look at is the week and the topics we'll be covering. So you can see week 2 will be covering yes, Malindu, you want to ask a question?
Yes, Sam. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
As per the schedule in the outline,
Yeah.
dates are a bit different than what we're actually doing at the moment. Is it going to be the same in the future, or is it also a bit different?
Is it?
Yeah, like it says 13th of July, but we didn't have it, and today is 17th as well. So are we
Okay,
having
okay. No, that's the thing I was talking about. Is this 13th of July is the week starting 13th of July. So your lecture is on, of course, 17th of July. But what we put here is the start of the week, which is the 17th of July. Does that answer your question?
yeah, all right. So you are putting it for the week. Understood.
That's right. That's right. So I put up the first Monday. That's how we have to write it. You will see most of the unit outlines will be written like that. So this is the Monday of the week, but yes, our lectures will be on the Friday of that week. That's why I put it
Got it. Thank you, Sam.
there. Yeah, thanks, buddy. All right, there's another question which is saying that query which is saying that it will be great if you can put it on the slideshow. That's correct. Thanks, buddy. Lavish, I will put it up on the slideshow. I don't know. I should be putting up on the slideshow, but the problem is, I'm working with the screen, and for some reason, I'll work this out in the break. See, instead of solving the problem, I've made it worse now. So I have to go and find that lecture. All right. So anyhow, all right, guys, I'll give you guys your first break. And in the meantime, let me work out this thing, how I can put it on the slideshow and what I can do. And you guys come back in 15 minutes. So it's 9:35. And when you come back at 9:50, I will continue from where we left off. So I'll finish up that schedule as well. And I'll also discuss the Milo. I'll take you guys through Milo as well. But I'm here. If you have any questions, feel free to just ask the questions. Otherwise, take a 15 minutes break and I'll see you there. All right, Kunal, if you're there, you asked me about the midterm assessment. So I'll just share my screen.
Yes, sir. Actually, sir, I wanted to ask you some more details.
Sure.
Actually, firstly regarding the midterm assessment, sir, I
Yeah.
wanted to ask where can we access the midterm assessment topics from, sir?
Um, so I'll show that everything. I'll show that to you on Milo. When I take you guys through Milo, I'll show it to you.
Okay, sir. So,
All right.
secondly, sir, I was lastly enrolled with the last when I was enrolled for the second mates. Sir, now do I have to make the ID again? Everything has to be
No,
again, or
no,
that
no,
will
no.
continue?
That's right. That's right.
But
That's right.
I am not being able. I'm not enrolled in any courses there. There's no active courses for me in my Milo and e-student also, sir. I've
Oh,
already, yes, it's not showing up in that.
so you
I've
okay?
already marked a mail to Kelly,
Yeah.
Kim Grove. Sorry, Kim
Yes.
Grove.
Yeah, Kim. Yeah.
I've already marked, sir, but I'm still waiting for their reply. I've not received any reply regarding that.
All right. So yeah, normally they should reply to you because only they let us know if we have to add the student or not. So I mean, if you are enrolled, you will automatically gain access to it. Um, so yeah, have a chat with Kim and have a chat with Neil Pereira as well. These are the guys who
Okay.
should help you out, and you should be able to access Milo because now the studies have started. Um,
Yes,
I mean, with my topic, it's still easy. You don't have to worry too much about. But yes, you must have access to Milo, Kunal. So make sure you sort this issue out. And
yes, sir. I'll do it today only,
yeah,
sir.
I won't be able to help you much. Sorry, buddy. But yeah, Kim and Neil Pereira, Kelly, these are the guys who have access to the system and they can rush the process better.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. I'll just do that.
Yeah.
Because I was waiting for that only. I was not able to attend other classes also because I'm not
Mm.
getting any mail from Utah's regarding Zoom login IDs as well, and nothing. Nothing is. I'm not
Mm.
receiving any mail at my end. So
Right.
this.
So that means you are officially not enrolled because I didn't see your name on
Yes.
Milo either. So I didn't know that you are this in this unit.
Exactly, sir.
Mm.
Exactly, sir. I was just given this ID by Lovish.
Ah,
So
Lovish.
he gave me this ID and he told me to come because I just submitted my fees just 2 or 3 days prior, sir. So I'll just talk to my agent in the morning regarding this and also talk to Neil, sir, regarding the same, sir.
Right. Okay. Good. Good.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right.
How are you, sir?
Yeah. Very good, Kunal. Very good to see you here. When were you here last?
Sir, I was here in 2016, sir.
2016. Okay. All right.
Yes, sir. I cleared in 2016.
So it's been a few years. All right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's been
All right.
4 years now.
Yeah. All right. I'll do that. Okay. Lovish, I think you have asked me to do the slideshow. And I realized that when I do the slideshow, the slide actually opens up in my other screen. Now I can make it one screen, but it will become very hard for me to talk. Then I'll have to look at this screen and also that's why I'm not being able to do it, but I'll try to work out how to do a slideshow uh, and be on the same computer. So if I do it on the same computer, is this better? Yeah, this is better. So yeah. Uh, so now I can't access the chat. That's the only problem. So there are advantages and disadvantages. So anyhow, Lovish, just bear with me. The problem is that if I use my laptop and I use the slideshow function, you can see this clearly. I get it. But I can't access your chats. The chat is opening in some other function. So I'll have to use two screens and then it gets affected. But anyhow, I'll keep the screen open. And when you guys come back, then I'll talk with the screen, but I need to. Maybe I can. Let's see.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I actually was going through my e-student right now, and it should show me in the current enrollment, right, sir?
It should show
In
you.
the
Yes.
Yeah,
Correct.
it's not, it's showing sorry, but you are not currently enrolled in any units of your study plan.
Yeah. So I think the best thing would be for you to contact Kim Groves and Kelly Roach and Neil. Just
Yes, sir.
email to all
I'll
three
just
of
do
them.
that, sir.
And
Is this a good time to mark them mail, sir? Kim, sir?
yeah,
Neil, sir?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I'll just mark them.
Yeah, just write an email right now. Just write an email, and
Yes, sir.
if you want, you can have a phone conversation as well. But yeah, just write an email to all of them, and they'll definitely answer you.
Yes, sir.
In this video, we will show you how to enrol in a unit via eStudent. Firstly, you will need to log into eStudent using your username and password. Go to the Study Plan section by clicking on Study Plans in the menu ribbon. Select a course you are currently admitted into by clicking on the red Select.
Hi, sorry, was there a question? Sorry, I didn't hear it. Was somebody asking a question? No? I heard somebody talk. All right, guys, any other questions, any concerns, queries before we start? Nothing? Oh, thank you, Cheryl. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Kunal, I have answered. I'm going to happy so far. Okay, smile. Okay, all good. Thanks. Lovish, yeah, you are the only one. Sorry, buddy. I can't do the slideshow because I realize that there are some functions and I'm not being able to access. But this is there on Milo, so you can access the schedule on Milo, and hopefully the other screens will be better because yeah, that's what I realized. So let's start. I think all of you are there on Zoom already. So we can start, we can have a shorter break. So yes, I'll just, for the next 4 minutes, I'll just take you guys through the unit schedule. And like I said, the week that you see, the date beginning is the week of that date, so Monday, and then our lectures are on Friday. So our lectures are there on every Friday, almost every Friday, 9 to 12. You don't have to sit and listen to the lecture every time, but that time will more for in interaction for you to ask me your concerns and queries and for me to answer it. So I will be here every Friday 9 to 12. And of course we'll have a lecture as well, and you can ask me questions. I'll take you guys through whatever is bothering you or um, yeah, that you need for your learning. Then week 3, we have individual and group management, conflict management. So by week 3, we'll finish our syllabus for our case study analysis or midterm assessment or end of term assessment. And then we'll start with occupational health and safety, STCW, Maritime Labor Convention, FAL Convention, and Shipboard Financial Management. Then we have our mid-semester break from 31st of August to 6th of September, when you will have no classes with me. And then we resume again on the 7th of September with ISM code, 14th of September with emergency management. And then the week of 21st of September, your exam will be on 25th of September. We'll talk about that as the date gets closer. And we'll be doing a case study analysis, or rather exam will be a case study analysis. We'll talk about that. And then we don't have any class scheduled for 28th of September. 5th of October, you have your last lecture, and then you get 2 weeks to prepare for your group assignment. All right, any questions? All right, so what I'll do is I'll next show you the Milo. So any questions, guys?
No.
No questions. All right, good. So otherwise, just use your chat function and send me the question. Like I said, happy to answer it. And that's why not so far. All right, fantastic. Thanks, Jen. All right, guys. Now I'll take you through the Milo, which is also very important. And again, let me know if you have any concerns or questions. This will be your Milo. So if you are enrolled in this unit, you should be able to see this unit on your Milo. JND323, Managerial and Leadership Skills, 2020 semester 2. And you should be going into this unit here. All right, so I'll show you the important bits and pieces that you need to know. I know that some of you have been studying with us for some time. You are very familiar with Milo, but just bear with me if you don't know that already. But if you don't, then this will be a good time for you to become familiar with Milo, and especially with this unit and what is there in this unit and what is it that you have to know. All right, I'm trying to drag this to 9:50 because I told some of the people that I'll be back at 9:50. So I'm just dragging this. So if you are joining us late, feel free to ask me questions. Otherwise, yeah. So this will be Milo, and you can see most of the stuff you will find here. So the first thing is the unit home, of course. So if you go to the unit home, you can all see Milo. Am I right? You can see my screen. One yes would be good.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thanks. All right, thanks, guys. Thanks, sir. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, just don't trust technology sometimes. All right, so the first thing that you do is the unit home, right? So if you click here, and if you have not done it already, you can find the unit outline. So you can find the detailed unit outline. For New South Wales students, of course, your lecturer is Ian Gray. So I might have Tej Meyer there from last year, but so the unit outline, I discussed the important bits and pieces from here. If you want to know what is it that you have to study, what is the syllabus, what does each topic contain, you can go through this and find it in detail. So this will tell you what is it that you will be learning. There's lots to learn. And that's why I said I started that YouTube channel, is because there's so much to learn. I cannot say that I have done my bit and you know everything. No, there's lots more to learn. So if apart from what we learn here, please go and watch those videos if you want to learn more. But at the same time, I have to keep the syllabus manageable. Otherwise, you guys will go crazy trying to learn everything. So officially, this is what you will learn. And then, of course, the assessment task and the learning outcomes, all that. So we discussed all the key aspects of the learning unit outline today. And you can see if there is any question, there's nothing else. We've pretty much covered everything. Milo, required resources, what learning equipments you need, concerns and complaints, unit schedule. So everything we have done. All right, so we don't need to go through this again. All right, so this is where your unit outline is there. Then other than the unit outline, just go into the contents tab. All right, just go into the contents tab and you will find everything here, what you need to learn for this unit. So you can see here in the contents tab, there's a table of contents. You start off here with the introduction and unit outline. So a copy of the unit outline is here, right? This is another copy of the unit outline. And here you have the unit overview and introduction. So that basically we have to do these things. So I welcome you. Then there's a short welcome video, which you don't have to watch if you don't want to. And these are again some of the key aspects of your learning. All right. So feel free to go through that or not, doesn't matter. And then we have the content section here. So in the content section, your mainly learning starts in the weekly content. So this is week 1. Week 1 is communication. I keep looking on this screen because I have the screen split. So yeah, sorry about that. So week 1, this is week 1. So in week 1, you have a short text-based reading, and this is for those people who say, I don't have enough to read. So you can go and read something here. But there's not much to read. Like you can see that it's pretty much what we are going to be talking about in our lecture anyway. So you don't have to worry too much about that. What you have to worry about is these things. So you can see I have made videos already. And these the communication issues is a 10-minute lecture of what we'll be doing today in the third half of the class, or rather the second half of the lecture. I don't know how it will work out. And this is a case study, an example of a case study that we'll be using for our exam. So this is the case study where I present the case study, and the next video is the analysis of the case study. So you can hear me talking about the case study and how I analyze it sentence by sentence, line by line, giving both the pros and the cons of the situation. So when we analyze a case study, and I'll show you an example, you don't analyze it in one dimensional. You have to provide both the scenarios, or rather both the perspectives. Because when you become a senior officer, you can't be biased in your judgment. You can't be biased in how you take decisions. You have to weigh the pros and cons. So that's why I give you guys a practice of analyzing case study, because even when you are resolving conflicts, or whether you are involved in any kind of decision making, you have to listen to, or rather you have to think about both sides of the situation, and then take the right decision. All right, so you can watch these videos in your own time. And then of course the communication, the PDF is the PowerPoint presentation that I will use to teach you guys about communication. So it's there as well. This is week 1. All right, so we have the communication issues, and of course you have the introduction. Then of course in week 2, we discuss other things. So you have managerial skills. I'll probably get rid of this page. I didn't have much to write there. So you again have the short lecture for next week. So you have 2 short lectures because we'll be covering 2 topics. So we'll be covering managerial skills that you require as mariners, as well as leadership skills. And then you have the PDF of the PowerPoint that I'll be using. So just for your reference, and you can use it as a reading material if you want to, but there's not much reading material. All right. Now I keep on saying there's not much reading material, and you might be thinking, Sam, how am I supposed to prepare for the exam then if you're not giving us anything to read? And I'll show it to you, and you will realize why I don't give you much material to read. I'll show it to you. But still, if you have any concerns, feel free to write to me. Then you have week 3, and you are getting the idea. So what I've done is I've already put up the 10 to 15 minute short summarized lecture on Milo, so that if you miss any lectures, or if you are unable to attend, or if you are located somewhere else, you are not having access, you can watch those videos at your convenience. It's pretty much going to be the same stuff. And then, but I will also put up today's recording as well. So that will be there as well on the topic. So today's recording will be there in week 1, communication. So I'll put up the recording here so you can access it. And similarly, I'll be doing it for every week. So even if you have any questions to ask, that will be recorded. Don't worry about it, because sometimes those questions may be questions for everyone. So they can benefit from those questions. All right. And also what you write in the chat function, I answer it in the recording, because then people know what you have been asking and how I'm trying to answer it or not. All right. Then we have occupational health and risk assessment, and we have the risk assessment. We have the video there as well. Week 5 is MLC and STCW. You can watch those videos as well. Week 6 is financial management or something. Week 6 is, sorry, file conventions and financial management. Week 7 is ISM code. Again, the video is there. The PowerPoint presentation is there. There are some additional videos as well that I put up. For example, on what grounds are ships detained as per post-trade control. This is related to ISM, so I made a video on that as well. Like I told you, I have lost to teach you guys, the risk of sounding arrogant. No, I have a few topics that I know about, so I thought I should put it out there. So again, here, there are a lot of videos as well. Managing rescued persons at sea, stowaways at sea, drugs and alcohol, managing death of crew on ships. Now this is supposed to be a very small topic, but I've made a detailed video on this and put it up there as well. Stowaways, piracy, smuggling, maritime crime, SOPEP and oil record book. This is officially not there in your syllabus for management, but I put it up there because it's very important from an orals point of view. So what I do is normally I get a lot of feedback from you guys and on the kind of questions that are being asked of engineers and deck officers, anything that is related to my topic, even though if I have not taught it and it is remotely related, I just put up a video there. Although you may be learning about this in some other unit, doesn't matter to me. I just try to make as many videos as I can about the little stuff that I know so that you can benefit. So why these videos are there? Because today you might be learning, but you may be going for your oral examination at some other date, or you may be taking a break, or you may have gone back to work and coming back. So these videos help you to just remember what we have learned, or just to recap, just to revise. They are not the best videos in the world. Of course, they are not very detailed, but they are good enough for you to answer questions in the exam, in my opinion. All right, but yes, just an additional learning resource which I like deck and engineers to have. Then of course, okay, week 9 is what I was coming to. So week 9 is when your assessment is going to take place, your end of term assessment. This is the week of 21st of September. Your exam will be on 25th of September on Milo. I'll show you how I'll administer the assessment as well. Any questions, guys, so far? Anything?
No.
All right, good. Thanks.
Sir.
Thanks. Thank you. All right, so let me show you an example of a case study. So this is from last year's exam. This is the case study I used last year. And you can see when you read the last year's case study, you will see how easy it is and you can answer it today itself. So you can, but don't stop attending lectures, all right? That's not what I mean. All right, so you can see here, prior to joining a vessel as a master, your crew manager informs you that the previous master had suffered a heart attack on board and passed away while the vessel was at sea. You are told that for the last 4 days, the chief officer was acting as the master and you have to take over from him. On joining the vessel, you find the general atmosphere of the vessel to be very somber or very sad, very depressing. You realize that the death of the previous master and keeping his body on board for 4 days has affected the spirits of mostly everyone. The chief officer is a very able officer who's upset because he expected the company to promote him and not bring you on board as the master. Although he hands over the vessel to you, he makes his displeasure very clear. The chief engineer is a senior employee of the company who's easy to get along with. He welcomes you on board and tells you that he looks forward to working with you as long as you do, or as long as you take care of the deck department only and not interfere in his management of the engine department. He promises you to extend all his support and cooperation. On talking to the second and third officer, you realize that they have been newly promoted in their roles. The previous master did not speak to them directly and asked them to report to the chief officer, who then passed on the information to the master. The junior officers were told that they should perform well in their new roles or they would be reported as incompetent. This had made the junior officer hesitant to speak to the master, and they show the same behavior with you as well. On inquiring about the deck crew, you find out it is led by a strong-headed bosun who was excellent in his job. However, he didn't like the cadet and only gave him cleaning jobs. The chief officer had asked the cadet to report to the bosun and did not want to do anything with his training as he had a lot of administrative work. The bosun was of the opinion that once cadets learn the aspects of the job, they try to undermine the bosun, and this was based on his previous experience with other cadets. So you can see it's a pretty short case study. It could be longer for you guys, I don't know, but this is the one I used last year. And when you read it, you can see why a couple of engineers in the past has complained to me saying that, Sam, it was very deck oriented. Now, when you read the case study, and maybe some of you engineers may disagree with me, I would like to know it later on in the comments section, or you can send an email to me. All right, so you can send an email to me. But as you can see in the case study here, this requires just general common sense. So what I've done is, because I'll be teaching you leadership, managerial, team working, communication, conflict, decision making, and other issues as well, I try to make a case study in which there is an example of each of these issues, like leadership or lack of leadership, lack of teamwork, lack of communication, conflict arising, and you have to identify those issues based on what you learn with me, and then address those issues and tell me what should ideally have happened and why you think so. So the more detailed analysis you provide. So right now, you know that most of you, I'm sure when you read the case study, you can say that I can answer it, because I know most of you have been sailing for many years. Maybe some of you are very senior. Maybe you're already sailing as chief engineers and masters on some specific size of vessels, and you can answer this case study. But attending the lectures or listening to the lectures will help you to understand how deep you have to go, how you analyze, how you provide the strategies, and why those strategies have to be based on sound management theories. it can't be just based on what you think. It has to be based on some kind of justification. Although it will be your analysis, and your analysis to this case study will be different to your friend's analysis, but you should be able to justify. And that's the example I told you, because in the class I often used to ask people, how would you discipline? And somebody would joke saying that I'm going to slap him, or I'm going to sack this person, or I'm going to get rid of this person. You can't say that, and we'll learn why you can't say that or why you can't do that. Because even to do that, you have to build up some documentation. So this is an example of a case study, but if you still find it's very deck oriented, I can just exchange the ranks. I can make the master chief engineer or something like that. But as you probably see that it's not about the department. This could be based in catering. It could be based in the Ford Motor Company. It could be based in anywhere. You don't have to tell me how the master navigates the ship or how the chief officer has to load a ship. This is more about you being able to address the management issues. The ranks and all that don't matter. All right, so I will be putting up this case study is there for you to see and get an idea of how the exam will be framed. But I'll also be putting this as a sample exam so that you get practice of actually answering an exam using the tools provided on Milo, as you would have to do on 25th of September. All right, so I'll show you that as well. So this was the week 9 when you will have to go into the exam. This is a practice case study. This is not the exam. I will put up a different exam. Then group 10 is when I introduce the final assessment to you. And this is where I will put up the final assessment. You can come in here, and that will be done after the midterm or the end of term exam is over. After 25th of September, I'll put up the final assessment here, or rather the final group assignment here. But in the meantime, make sure you start talking to your friends and start finding the 3 people that you want to be a part of. And I'll show you what document I'll be using. And I'll be sending it to you guys, and you'll have to put your names down in the preferred groups. All right, then week 11 is of course articles of agreement, taking over command of a vessel for a senior deck as well as engineer officers. So this is for chief engineers, second engineers, masters, chief officers. Then we'll talk about articles of agreement or terms of contract, as it is called in many of your companies, and of course the learning materials there. So what I am showing you here is that actually everything is here. You can start your learning, you can finish your learning, and you can be done and over with this unit much quicker than the other units. And that will free up your time for the more important units like thermodynamics or maybe navigation or ship stability. I don't know what you guys are doing in the second semester, but you can focus more on that. All right. All this content is for week 12 final group assignment preparation. So you have the referencing guide, and I'll talk about that later on, not today. How to submit assignment in Milo. There's a video on that I've already made. How to use Turnitin for reference check. There's a video on that I've made as well. You can watch it later. And then there is a sample answer for, so there's a sample question and answer for the final assessment. You can see that later on. You don't have to worry about it right now. So this was from last year exam as well. So last year group assignment, this was one of the questions. Discuss the implications of FAL convention on maritime stakeholders in regard to the carriage and disembarkation of stowaways. So what you will realize is in the final assessment, the questions that I put up require you to go and research on your own. And I'll tell you the reason why. You will not find the answer to any of these questions in my lectures or in the content that I provide. And the reason I do that is because firstly, your workload is very less. There are 3 or 4 of you who are answering about 6 questions in the group assessment. So workload is very less. The second thing I want you to research is because when you start researching on your preferred question, you learn more. You learn the latest things that are happening. You learn more than what I am teaching you. And if all of you sit together and do this assignment together and then discuss your answers with each other, you will learn a lot more than you listening to me and not even registering what I'm saying. So that is the reason I do that. All right. So, but we'll talk about how maybe you are one of those guys who don't want to be part of any groups and people don't want you in the groups. We'll talk about that as well. Nothing much I can say much now. All right. All right. Any questions before I keep going? No questions. Chat. I can see one chat. Couple of questions. No. Is there anyone who that Sam? Can you please give a sample answer to the case study 1? Yes. So Ed, I will give you the sample answer to the case study 1 for sure. I have intentionally not put up the sample answer. That is because I want you guys to have a go at it, and I'll show you how you're going to do that, and then I'll give you the sample answer so that you can compare, because I want to get an idea of what you are going to do and then compare it to what I expect you to do. And that is why I have not put up, but I will put up the sample answer case study. All right. Any other questions?
Do we have to use Turnitin? I've never used it in any of the AMC units.
That's why you learn more with me, Travis. So
yeah, I don't want to learn too much.
Don't say that, man. We are going to give you a degree. I want you to learn a lot. Yeah. So Turnitin and all those functions, we'll talk about that later. So Turnitin is not a foolproof software, but it helps you to identify whether you have plagiarized or not, because some of you are very good with, you know, the requirements of plagiarism. Some of you may be international students who don't know. So that just helps you to identify whether you are copying and pasting from somebody's material and not giving a reference to that. So yes, you will have to use Turnitin. It's very easy. Just watch the video and you will see how easy it is. Otherwise,
okay, no problem.
Yeah, I'll take you through that. It's a 2-minute video. You can watch it and you will realize how easy it is. You will just smile. So yeah, the main thing is you should be referencing people that you're getting the material from, because you'll be doing a lot of research. So you'll be gathering material from somewhere, and that's why. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just trying to answer the case studies as well, Brisbane. All right, so not for me. All right. The next thing I want to show you is the assessment, or how I'm going to, what I want you guys to do. So as you can see that in the communication, I have announcements. So of course, I'll be putting up some announcements which are important. Now, this is the part I want you to go. So discussion post, right? So when I go to discussion post, this is where I will be putting up a case study every week. Now you can see here, some people have commented on the existing case study, the communication one, which is fantastic, very active of you guys, very impressed. But this is where I'll be putting up case studies for your practice. So you have to read those case studies and put up at least a comment on one case study. You don't have to do it for every case study. And instead of answering each one of you individually, there are about 70, 80 of you. I will put up my answer to that case study. So you can just compare your analysis with my analysis. If you don't want to answer each and every case study, I understand that, that's fine. You can just do one, but you can have a chat, because you can see how the case studies are taken from real ships, and you can just provide your comments on it, because you guys are very experienced. You have been sailing for some time now. I'm sure you have lots to share. And when you share your experience or your analysis, then people are learning from you. So you are learning from one another. That is why those case studies are good. So just go into the discussion section, put up a comment for today's discussion. I haven't put it up yet. I'll put it up after the lecture. It will be a short case study to start off with, and then I'll slowly start to increase the length of the case studies, because you have to get used to learning, or rather reading a case study and then answering it within an hour. So it will be a longer case study, which will have all the issues. In today's case study, there'll only be probably a communication issue. In the next case study, there'll be only a leadership and managerial issue. But then slowly I'll start to combine those case studies, and that's why I have that example there as well. All right, so just go into the discussion post and put up a comment. You can put it up for all, or you can put it up for any one, but it's up to you. The last thing I want to show you here is the assessment tab, how your exam is going to be implemented. So what I'll be doing is just, you have to go into the quiz section. So you go to assessments, you go to quiz. So here, of course, there'll be a quiz, and I will create a sample quiz for you guys. So this is where I will put up the last year's case study. That will be a sample assessment for you guys to go and have a try at using the tools available on Milo, because on the day of the real exam, you will have to use this tool and answer. So today I will put up that sample case study in the quiz. Go and do it whenever you want to. It's only for your practice. So you can go and answer it. Nobody will be able to see your answer, of course. You can give a detailed answer, or you can give few lines, or you cannot answer it at all. But it will give you a good practice on what to do on the day of the real exam. So today when I create it, I will send out an announcement. I'll send out an email saying that I've created it at your own time, at your own leisure. I know you have other units to study as well. Go in there and have a go at the practice exam. So that will be good for you. Once you do that and a couple of weeks pass, I'll give you the answer as well. Correct? Very good. Marty, that's...
Yes, sir. I have a request. It will be better if you can share your screen with us, so we can exactly know the location, if it is possible, I think.
Sorry, what is it?
Sir, if you can share your screen with us, that means you can share your screen with us.
I'm sharing my screen already.
I can see.
You can't see my Milo?
I can. I've got two screens, but I can see it.
Yeah, it should be.
I can.
Yeah, you should be able to see it, because otherwise the last 45 minutes has been a waste. So you should, yeah, you should be able to see. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, sir. I can see. Sorry.
Yeah, all right, good. All right, Iru has asked, are there any word limits for assignments? So Iru, I will answer that question later on, because in the assignment itself, I have mentioned the word limits there. So you can, so we'll talk about the final assignment once we are done with this end of term assessment. Otherwise it's going to create confusion, but yes, the word limits will be there for some questions. I have mentioned it in the final group assignment already, so you will get an idea. All right, so let's talk about the end of term assessment first, because that is the first thing you have to do. So make sure you go into the assessment today. I'll create that practice exam and you can go into the assessment, just go into the quiz. You will find the quiz there, have a go at it. Nobody will be seeing your answer, only I'll see your answer, and that will give you a good practice for what to do in on the day of the real exam. All right, and then any questions so far before I go on, before I keep going? So communication we've discussed already. Assessments I have discussed already. There is only one for you. You have to go into the quiz section. The final group assessment will be there on Milo. That will be available to everyone, so you don't have to use any tools. Yes, I can show you how to submit your assignment. So we can show that later on as well. So I'll create here. So okay, I'll show that to you later on. Let's not talk about final group assessment much right now. Otherwise, it will create confusion. So let's focus on the end of term assessment. And once you're done with it, or just before you're done with it, we'll talk about the final assessment as well. All right, is there anything else you want to ask me before I show you about the groups that you have to form for final assessment? No? So I'm going to stop sharing this screen and I'll show you what you have to do with your group assessment and how you form groups. All right, because this was a question asked to me before the unit started as well. So let me just show you what I expect you guys to do. So today I'll be sending out an email to you guys, and that email will have a link. All right, so when you see that link, you have to click on that link and I'll show you where that will take you. So I'm just trying to find that link. Here you go. So you will get a link of a Google's Doc. All right, Google Doc link, you will get that. And all you have to do is basically just click on that Google Doc link. And then I'll tell you where it will take you. All right, here you go. So let me share my screen now again. So share screen. And here it is. Share. All right, so you can see this document right now. So this is when I asked the question, I expect.
Yep.
Yes, yes, thanks. I know it's hard to interact, all of you. All right, thank you very much. So you can see this link, right? So what you see at the top is the link. So that is the link I'll send out via email to you guys today. Don't be in a rush. I know I have put the date 21st August here. I will make it 21st September because we don't have to worry about these groups thing. Although I just worry if I give you guys more time, you guys will not do the needful. So I'll see. I'll finalize the date later on. But yes, this link will bring you to this document here. So this will say student groups for JND323 group assignment only. This is for Launceston students only. I'm not worried about the New South Wales. That is not my problem. So students must enter their name under one group number only. You can enter it under one group. You should talk to your friends who you want to work with. If you don't have any friends, just put your name under any group. Somebody else will add you, or I'll just add you to a group if I find some people are having less than 3 or 4. All right. Each group will have 3 to 4 students only, not less than 3, not more than 4. So that's why I have created the space only for 3 to 4 students only. If you have 3 students, that's fine. If you have 4, that's fine as well. Each student will enter their name and email or contact number, either or. Okay, you don't have to give me your contact number if you are not comfortable. So just put your name here. So for example, I know Travis very well. So Travis Edwards, and then just put your email. So what happens is once Travis does that, this is automatically updated in everybody's spreadsheet. So I get to see it, everybody gets to see it. So if there is somebody who wants to work with Travis, then what they will say is they will put their name under Travis, or if Travis has spoken to some people already, so those guys will decide and they'll say, okay, let's put our name in one group. You can choose any group number, that has no implication. And you can put your name and email there. Why I said email or contact number is because you may be one of those guys who don't know anyone. And now you are saying, but I don't know anyone who will work with me. So just put your name or contact number there. And people, even if they don't know you, then they will contact you, they will write an email to you. And you guys can form a group and start chatting and start working on how to finish. Like I said, this unit is also about you being able to work together. You'll be surprised how I used to form groups before, and then I realized people are fighting amongst themselves. And then I told the students to form groups, and even then there are some student groups who start fighting. And just a day before exam or just a day before submission, somebody will come up to me and said, I'm not happy. And I always tell them that if you can't work with 3 bloody people on the ship on a group assignment, how do you expect to work with hundreds of people or 20-30 people on a ship or an offshore vessel? So this is a lesson for you to be able to get along with people and work together. Now the problem that happens is that this group assignment is a combined assessment and submission. So the marks that you get is the same for all group members. Now what happened in the past is somebody puts in a lot of effort and somebody else does not. They are piggybacking on you, or they are slacking off. And then you, who has put in a lot of work, gets a lesser mark than you expected, and you are unhappy, although the fault is of that guy who has not done enough work. Now you come up to me and you say, Sam, I'm not happy with my marks. Somebody else didn't do the work and I'm getting less marks for it. Well, this is a life lesson for you. This is going to happen on the ship as well. So you guys want to become senior officers. And if you are already senior officers, you know this is what happens. So this is where you have to learn to work together in the group. There are only 3 or 4 of you. Ideally, you should be able to do that. You should be able to tell what standards you want to achieve, what kind of marks you want to get, how everybody should be able to put in the work. If somebody is slacking, then how to take care of that person, how to make sure that that person works to your standards. These are things you have to do on a daily basis on the ship as a senior officer. And it's not 1 or 2 people. You will have to handle sometimes hundreds of people, or sometimes 20-30 people who will be under you. So this is just a practice. I'm sure you will be able to do it. All right, so I'll be sending this link out today. Although you don't have to rush it, I'll give you guys a few weeks to do it, but make sure that you become part of the group. Otherwise, I'll just put you in a group and you'll have to work with those students. And I don't think you like that, or maybe you do, I don't know. All right, any questions about this?
Can I have a suggestion there, Sam?
Yes.
Could we possibly have a separate page?
Yeah.
And then you can either put your country details, or even if you're happy to put your phone number, at least you get an idea of where people are based. So you could possibly form a group within your local area or sort of immediate sort of area.
So Mike, that's a good suggestion. I like that suggestion, but I'm not sure how you want me to implement it. So if you want, the idea here is that you don't have to divulge your details if you don't want to, but if that's your aim, then you can put in your name and put in your state there and your email address. So what will happen is if somebody contacts you, then at least they are doing it over the email, and you don't have to share your phone number or relevant details if you don't want to. And if you're comfortable, then via email, you guys can share your personal details and have a chat. So that's the idea. But I have to have this one sheet because this is for me to able to see. So do you want me to create another sheet within this sheet where you can?
Yeah, I think we could do that. I think that'll be good. And then we can just delete that sheet later, when we're happy.
All right. So otherwise, if you have to work around time zones, if you do Zoom meetings. All right. All right, that will be great. Then what we'll do is then I'll create another sheet here. Is that what you mean? So I'll create another sheet here.
Yeah, look at the bottom there. We can just add to that bottom, and then we can try and form our groups from that.
All right, that's excellent. So Mike, you want me to, Lovish, I'll just get to you. So Mike, you want me to include a sheet where you can put in your state. Is that what you said? State?
State or country, because
state, country, yes.
Yeah.
Very good. Anything else you want me to include there? Telephone number?
Yeah, I mean, like Australia is 61. I mean, I don't know any other country codes, but if you,
All right.
that's a pretty good indication of where you are.
All right, fantastic. All right, so I'll do that. That's a good suggestion, Mike. Thank you very much for that. So today, before I send out that document, I will put up a column there. So I'll just put up their name, state or country, and contact number, and then you guys can start filling it on your own, and it will be uploaded live. Is that good, Mike?
Yeah, I'm happy with that. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right, thank you very much. Thank you for your suggestion.
Can I also just say a great thanks, because I kind of missed the first couple of lectures with some technical issues, and what you've said today has been really good and helpful.
Oh.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it, Mike. Thank you very much. And thanks, Jen supports, I think, the idea, your idea as well, that the states should be mentioned. That's a good suggestion, and some of the people agree. So based on Mike's suggestion, this is what I'll do, guys. I'll include an extra page, and it will just mention the headings, name, state, country, or telephone number, and just feel free to start filling in those details and then start choosing your group members. That's why I said we'll introduce it today, so that you guys get a few weeks to work on this, get to know each other, and start forming groups of your own choice, and then it will be easy for you to work. So thank you for that suggestion. And if you have any other suggestions, feel free to include it, but appreciate it. Thanks. All right, so I'll close this screen. If you don't have any more questions, can we create a WhatsApp group where we can, of course, yeah, Lovish, sorry, you had a question. So Lovish is asking everybody that can we create a WhatsApp group where we can include all mates? Of course you can. Like I said, once the details are there, but then again depends on whether people want to be part of groups or not. But the last semester I was teaching celestial navigation, and that's what those guys had as well. They had a personal WhatsApp group, and where they were also making fun of some lecturers. I don't care, you can do that. But yes, but make sure that you ask for consent before you add people to the groups, and it's going to be helpful. Yo, that's a good suggestion, Lovish. Very good. Happy with WhatsApp. All right. So any person who wants to be part of the group, feel free to be part of the group. I think this unit is one of the best units for you guys, because here, this is the only unit where the deck and engineer offices come together. So and that will be, this is very fantastic for your learning. So if you form a group, a WhatsApp group, you will learn a lot from each other, and try to include me if it's not too much. Would love to be part of the group, but I know you won't, but that's all right. Okay, so what I'll do is that I'll create that document and start filling your details here, and everybody will have access to that document then. And yeah, let me know if there are any issues. So what we'll do is we'll take our second break, and I'll answer some more questions. We'll take a 10 minutes break, and Lovish has already provided his details. So yeah, we'll take a 10 minutes break. When you guys come back at 10:35, we'll continue from there. In the meantime, feel free to ask me any questions that you have, any concerns, any queries, anything that you're not sure about in this unit. I'll answer them. I'm sitting right here, but otherwise you guys can take a 10 minutes break and come back in 10 minutes. That's a good initiative, Lovish. Go ahead and do that. I'll provide you guys, no, that will be pressure on you. But anyhow, I'll just email my contact details to you guys just to keep it, but you don't have to add me to the group or anything like that. But yes, that's a good suggestion to have a WhatsApp group. That's very good. All right, so I'll share this screen now. Sure. Mute. Sure, please on the session and this and your details may be missed. Okay. All right. So I think if all of us are here on Zoom, I'll start. Has this been a long enough break? Chair, we can also use a Milo for group discussion, not sure of any WhatsApp group. Okay. Sure. All right, guys, any questions before I start with today's lecture? All right, Mike is good. Thank you very much. So, all right, guys, I'll start because then we can finish off quickly and then you guys will be free on the Friday. I'm going to keep this lecture very short. Like I said, this is a dry subject. You know, there's not much to do. There's not much math or anything going on. It's in the absence of face-to-face lecture, it's pretty one-dimensional, where it's a one-way communication that's going to happen, and that I'm going to be talking, you're going to be listening, and that is not ideally the way I like to teach. I like some interaction, some sometimes when I ask questions, I like some discussions, some feedback. It's hard to do that, especially because there are so many of you. It will be hard for you to talk together or me getting feedback. So every now and then, feel free to put up comments in the chat section, or just speak up, or raise your hand. Otherwise, I'll just quickly take you through today's lecture, and I'll teach you guys why or how what we learn is going to be used in the assessment, and how you're going to be assessing the case study. All right, so let's get started, and you can keep your conversation going in the chat section. Don't worry about that. So today's topic is identifying and resolving communication issues on ships. Like I said before, when we are going through the learning content, I will also show you how I will put up an example in the case study, and how I will expect you to answer it based on what you are learning in the case study, or rather in here in the lecture. All right, so keeping it short, let's get started. It's 10:35 now. I was just dragging it on. So for 10:35, it's 10:35. We all should be back, and let's get going. So today's topic is identifying and resolving communication issues on ships. If you think I'm going too fast, or if you don't understand something, just put a comment. All right, so the first slide I want to show you here is a joke that I got from the internet. And again, I know that some of you will say I need to make it a slideshow, but if I make it a slideshow, I lose function, the chat function. It goes somewhere else, I can't see it. So is it big enough for you to see, or no? Okay, this is better.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, is that okay? Yeah. So
Yes, okay, sir.
I'm just going to zoom it in. All right, so you can see here, the example I'm trying to show you here is this is a little kid who was trying to write about horses, and all the little kid missed was one letter, and the meaning of the whole paragraph changed completely. All right, so again, we start on a funny note, is because I want you to understand the importance of communication in daily life. And the reason I show you this slide is because tomorrow, as senior officers, you are expected to write reports to the company. You're supposed to write some kind of, it could be an accident investigation report, it could be a general maintenance report, it could be a dry dock report, it could be anything related to the SMS manual or safety management systems. So in report writing, be very, very aware of how you are communicating yourself. Make sure you do proofreading, and whether it's framing emails to the company, proofread as well. And this is the habit you have to develop even for your final assignment. So when you're doing final assignment, make sure that you don't only write it, but you proofread it a couple of times. You are definitely, you will find mistakes. So the more you proofread, the more you can find mistakes. And this is especially important when you're writing reports to the company. And the company is going to read those reports. It's going to set up an impression about you. And you don't want to be one of those guys who everybody makes fun of. All right. When we talk about communication, you go on the internet and you will see multiple case studies. There are hundreds and hundreds of case studies where there have been some kind of breakdown in the communication. And that's why I start with this topic today. I start with communication failure. I have given you some examples here. I've mentioned the real ship's name and what happened there. So the first ship, as you can see, there was a master pilot communication failure. The second was a master helmsman pilot communication failure. And again, the engineers must be thinking this is all deck side. I'll show you some engine examples as well. Then on passenger ship, the passengers could not understand safety symbols, and also the crew spoke a different language. That led to an accident and confusion as well. And on a container ship, fight between crew due to misunderstanding in gestures, sign and verbal communication led to fatal injuries as well. So these are all from real life case studies. And that's why in a couple of case studies, I mentioned the ship's name as well. And you probably know this already if you have been sailing for some time, that communication issues are there all the time. And when I say communication, I don't want you to misunderstand thinking that communication failure happens between an English speaking and a non-English speaking person. No, it happens between English speaking people as well. It happens between the person who you are speaking the same language as well. So even right now, I am thinking I am speaking English, but some of you may be struggling to maybe understand my accent, or may not be very sure of certain words and phrases on how I pronounce them. So communication failure happens then as well. Communication failure also happens with posters, like safety posters. If you have too many safety posters, you're not communicating anything to anyone. Nobody's even paying attention to those posters. It's not that this person is standing for elections and you're trying to draw their attention by putting a lot of photo posters on board. No, you are trying to communicate safety aspects. So make sure that communication failure doesn't happen there as well. All right. And then of course the normal communication failure that doesn't only have to happen with language. It could be due to gestures, sign language, body language. Communication failure is happening all the time, and because of that, accidents are happening all the time. All right. So I don't want to use chat function. Okay, good. And this is which slide shows me. And again, like I said, I'm going to rush through this. I'm not going to waste too much time, because I know, unless you want me to, because I know you guys will get bored. So this is the diagram I want to show you. This is the diagram I want to show you on what kind of communication you guys are doing on a daily basis on ships. Whether you are engineer or a deck officer, it doesn't matter. You can see how the chief engineer has to communicate with the duty engineer, the oiler, the electrician. This is normally at sea. In port, then the other stakeholders come in as well. For the deck side, of course, we have the tugs, the mooring boats, the pilot vessel, the port control, the VTS. Even for engineers, when you go into dry docks, you go into anything where, I mean, dry docks is the place where you have shore personnel coming in and starting to work on your ships, on your machineries. Then of course, communication failures can happen there as well. So what I want to show you by this slide is why communication is very important. Because you are communicating all the time. I don't have to tell you this, why it is important, but you can see here how much you're communicating. So it's not only interdepartmental communication, it's also intra-department, or rather external communication as well. So if you read case studies, you will realize how in so many case studies, miscommunication happens because the pilot on the ship is speaking in his own language with the tugboat, and the tugboat and the pilot, or the tugboat and the mooring men, they decide on something. The master and the officer is not aware of what they've decided because they've been speaking in their own language, and accidents have happened there. And again, I will give you more examples from the deck side, because that is one I'm familiar with, but doesn't matter what example I give you, it's the same. And then of course, you must have heard of two vessels trying to communicate with one another and miscommunicating because of a language problem, because of a pronunciation problem or an understanding problem, and accidents or collisions have happened there as well. All right. It can happen within the department as well. It can happen within the engine or the deck department, where you communicate something. Let's say the chief engineer or second engineer gives some instructions to the cadet or the junior engineer or the oiler, and this guy now doesn't want to admit that he has not understood your instructions, or has misunderstood it, and you have not asked whether they've understood or not, and you've sent them off. You are in a rush to complete the job, and miscommunication happens there, and it results in something which you don't want to be a part of. All right, so you can do the math here, how much communication is getting involved. All right, if you have any comments, anything to say, just say something. Oh, thank you very much, Cheryl, appreciate it. All right, communication happens all the time. And you guys are all working, you guys are all senior officers. I don't have to tell you how much of it is happening. So that's why I said in my lectures, I will use the word manager or a senior officer. I will not say master or chief engineer. And communication is basically whether what you say, you write, you gesture, you do sign language, no matter what kind of communication you're using. At the end of the day, communication can only take place when your audience understands your message. So today I might be sitting here thinking I'm the best lecturer in the world. I've been teaching for more than 10 years and I'm doing a great job. My students are very happy, whereas most of you must be thinking, I don't know what Sam is going on about. I have no idea what he expects out of us, or what he wants us to do, or what is he saying, and then communication is not taking place. So communication will take place only if I keep asking you, are there any questions? Do you have any doubts? And when you ask your doubts, only then I know that you have understood it or not understood it. But of course, on the ship, it's more important, because on the ship, as we will learn, a lot of factors affect communication. And you will realize it the more you sail with people of other nationalities, or even within your nationalities. I mean, it happens, communication failure happens within a family. I mean, I talk to my wife, we've been married for so long and still we have communication failures. So the person I know the most I don't communicate very well with that person as well. So I'm sure that you guys have issues with that as well. So communication takes place only when your receiver has understood the message. So you will encode the message in certain form as a sender, and you will use the proper channel. When I say channel, I don't mean channel 16 or channel 15 on the VHF. A channel means whether you are using email, you're using VHF, you're using loudspeakers, whether you are using telephones or verbal communication or sign language, use the right channel and then allow the receiver to decode your message, ensuring that both of you are now on the same page. Now, why I say this is because tomorrow you guys are going to be senior officers, right? Now, maybe a second engineer has asked for a spare part. The superintendent says no. Now you are upset, or maybe something else has made you upset. Without thinking, you shoot off a message on the email to the superintendent. Now, once that message goes, it's gone. The arrow is released. You can't take it back, right? So what you have to remember is what channel you use, which will convey the right communication. Sometimes you may write something on an email, you may not intend it to be offensive, but the person reading it, in the absence of your body language, will assume or will perceive it to be offensive, and again miscommunication will occur. So this is very important, guys, because you guys are going to be senior officers. You are going to be passing on instructions to your junior officers. You're going to be communicating with the company. You're the company's representative, whether you're the chief engineer or the master, you're the company's representative on the ship. You're going to be communicating with the DPA, the superintendent, and there could be so many other stakeholders, I'm sure, agents, shipping agents, pilots or customs or quarantine. So you have to make sure you use the right channel, and this is what we'll be learning today. And let me go to the next slide. In this slide here, again, if you were in the class, I would have asked you guys to tell me about the advantage and disadvantage of each communication channel and when do you use it. So remember, when I say channels of communication, I don't mean channel 15, channel 16, channel 20. No, I mean the mode of communication, right? So whether you will use VHF, telephones, email, verbal language, sign language, loudspeakers. So of course, right now it's not possible for us to do that. But when you are going through this lecture, please list a couple of advantages and disadvantages for each of these channels of communication and ask yourself, when is it a good time to use these communication channels and when is it a bad time? I'll give you an example just to make it clear. All right. Now, in one of the case studies I used in the exam, I put up a rescue case study scenario. All right. A rescue case where somebody has fallen overboard. Now, this person is in a rescue boat and heading towards that person to rescue that person. And it's raining, it's windy. And I asked the student that identify the barriers to communication. Now, most of the students said about the VHF radio. So they said the VHF, maybe, interference might happen. There are other ships in the vicinity. Everybody kept saying out of range, all that. But some of the barriers they didn't recognize is if it's windy, what will happen? If it's raining, what will happen? So there are those barriers as well to communication. And because I said the case study is in a port, so we talked about how it can interfere with other ships and as well. So again, an example. So really think deep about each of these channels of communication and what are the advantages and disadvantages of each. Because in the case study, I will definitely put up a scenario where you will have to choose a channel of communication and you have to tell me why you chose it. What was the advantage? And if you can't do that, then of course I'll cut marks. So like I said, any one of you can go right now and answer the case study, but how well you do it, how you aim for high marks will determine by how much you have thought about it. All right. So when is it a good idea to use an email? When is it a bad idea to use an email? So think about each of these channels and please let me know, or not let me know, but please make sure you put it in your notes to get an idea. But I'll keep going because there's no point of me wasting too much time here. All right. So again, like I said, some places where you need to show your body language, then verbal communication is good. Some places where you are far off, like crane operations or something, you can use sign language. But the disadvantage of sign language is that if you don't know the same sign language, if you have different meanings for different operations, there will be confusion. Loudspeakers, very good to get the message across, but it's one-way communication. Something like that is happening right now. I'm the only one who's talking, you're the one listening. So loudspeaker is very good for emergencies, maybe to make announcements, but not good if you want some kind of feedback. So like that, just have to think about it. It's common sense, it's not much. All right. So communication process, like I told you before, Feedback is very important to ensure mutual understanding. So like I keep asking you guys, are there any questions? Do you have anything to ask me? To provide ample opportunity for your subordinates to provide you with that feedback, and also for you to be open to that feedback. So if tomorrow somebody comes up to me and says, Sam, you speak fast, I agree with that. Unfortunately, I've never been able to slow down because I think fast. I guess that's why I speak fast. Otherwise, I sound a bit retarded. All right, so not important. So if somebody comes up to me and says, Sam, I didn't get your accent, I should not be offended. I should be able to say, all right, let me speak more clearly to you. If somebody comes up to you and say that I don't understand a particular acronym, maybe you are using an abbreviation or a short form which you learned from a last vessel and you are using it in your standing instructions or in your notes, and they are not understanding it. If they come up to you, you should not be saying, what have you been doing all these years? You don't understand this. You should not be insulting that person. You should not be offending that person. You should say, you should be able to take that feedback and make sure that you're on the same page. So feedback is very important, and how many channels you provide is very important as well. So you guys as senior officers will be writing down standing instructions. You can't assume that your juniors have understood it. All right. There have been a lot of cases. Even when I was a master, I remember my junior officers misunderstanding night orders and standing instructions. I'll again give an example where we had to give in on the paper charts. I had to mark in end of passage position, and there was another position with standby engine. And one of my third officers misunderstood it. He thought standby engines is when you have to give the engine room notice, but it was the end of passage when you have to tell the engine room to start reducing the RPM. At standby engines, we should be able to stand by the engines and start operating. But I remember how one of my third officers, he misunderstood it and did not give engine room adequate notice to reduce the RPM. So this is how I'm just giving you some examples how miscommunication can take place just because we assume the other person has understood it, whereas it may not be the case. All right. There are certain other things that affect communication as well. So if I go back to the previous slide, we have high context versus low context. I'll talk about that. Historical, psychological, cultural, social, and physical as well. Awesome. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Charlie. So yeah, high versus low context. So this is very important for you guys. What is high context versus low context? Now, why is this important? Is because there are certain people who come from high context countries like Indians, me, Indonesians, Afghans, Asians, mainly the Asian cultures. And there are lower context cultures, which is mostly the Western generation, the Western civilization like Australia, UK, Canada, English. Now, why is this important? Where you come from? What impact does it have on your communication? Now, this is what I was telling you before, that you will see that people from higher context cultures don't question authority. They don't say that we have not understood it. They are very respectful. They respect authority, and that's why they don't question authority. So although you may be giving out instructions and they have not understood it, they'll be shy to admit it that they have not understood it, or they'll be shy to question you if you are saying something which may not be the correct thing. So there was a case study, I think I'll show that case study later on in some other lecture, where a chief officer was doing incorrect operations on a gas tanker. And it was found that the second officer and third officer, they belong to higher context cultures, and they did not question the chief officer, which resulted in an explosion on the ship, although they knew that the chief officer is doing the incorrect thing. So why is this important? Because when you guys start communicating with people from different cultures, you have to be mindful of this, that there could be some subordinates of yours, some junior officers of yours who will nod their head, who will say yes, but they have not understood it. So how do you ensure they've understood it? It's by frequent feedback. Ask them to repeat what you said. Ask them to explain what you said or what you mean. Ask them to write it down. You also, instead of speaking the instructions, try to use written instructions as much as you can. So as a chief officer, I remember I used to put a lot of writing on for the bosun, because that also gives some evidence as to what instructions you have given them tomorrow if something goes wrong. But it also helps you to convey your instructions in a written format for somebody who may not be very good in understanding accents or understanding the language itself. All right, I'll show you, and of course I'll take the other examples as well. What do I mean by historical? So again, historical is because it can be based on your past experience with that person. So in the past, if somebody has spoken to you rudely, or if somebody abruptly insults you when you have tried to communicate, you will be hesitant to communicate with that person again. And you should not be one of those senior officers. So I remember as a deck cadet once, I went into the engine room and I saw a leaking pipeline. And I went up to the fourth engineer and I told him I saw a leaking pipeline. So the fourth engineer started laughing at me and he said, "You don't work here, so you don't know, this is a common thing. But the chief engineer who was standing there, he got very upset with the fourth engineer. He told the fourth engineer that don't make fun of the cadet just because he doesn't know what is happening here. At least he's coming up to you and telling you something. This time maybe you already knew it, but in future you may not know it. So never discourage someone just because he's junior or he doesn't know your area of operations. Let him say, and then what he meant to say was, somebody made fun of me, now I would be hesitant to go up to that person and say something that I observed. Now on the ship, it is very important that these things don't happen. People should be able to come up to you and tell you about the good things as well as the wrong things. And similarly, in this lecture as well, in this unit as well, you guys should be able to tell me today, like Mike suggested about the updating the document. So that is how communication should happen. You should be able to speak up. You should be able to tell me if you are not happy with something, and I should be able to communicate or correspond as well. All right. Psychological is, of course, talks about your own psychology in the time of communication. So if you are in a disturbed state of mind, don't communicate. Like the example I gave you before is that if you are a senior officer tomorrow and you're in a disturbed state of mind, now in that disturbed state of mind, you just shoot off an email to the superintendent or the DPA, that's not a good idea. All right. So that is not a mature behavior, and that will get you in trouble. I teach celestial navigation to the second year students, and I often find that after they come out of the exam, someone will be so disturbed, without thinking, they just shoot off an email. Now that gives me some documentation of that student and how he's wording that email. Now I don't use it, but what I want to say is you should first calm down. Even if you have genuine concerns, genuine complaints, genuine feedback, first calm down, learn to frame your email properly in an official language, and then send it out. And this is why I say this is not for me. You can send off abusive emails to me if you want to, but when you're working in a company, you should be very mindful of how you are framing your communication with people who can create some kind of damage to your career and your future, right? And then of course, cultural is, like I said, all comes down to which culture you come from. Like there's often this symbol here. This is a victory symbol, but this is also a symbol of up yours in many culture. And there are many gestures like this. So we won't get into that, but yes, cultural also has a lot of impact as well. All right, physical communication we talk about is body language. Social communication is in what context you are doing. So if you are trying to communicate in a noisy engine room, communication will not happen. If you have something to share, don't start shouting at that person, because together with the noise of the engine room and you shouting at that person, miscommunication will happen. Take them into a quiet place, calm down, both of you calm down, have a chat. It's all professional. All right, I'll keep going. So I talked about this as well. This is an example. This actually happened in AMC. We were organizing a conference in AMC, and I was part of that conference. And it's the IMU conference. It's the conference for International Association of Maritime Universities. And you can see this poor girl, this young girl, who actually got a standing ovation because she discussed a very important topic. She was discussing the topic of female seafarers and how there's a lack of female seafarers and what can be done. But you can see how she has spelled out semen. Semen, what she meant was semen, S-C-A-M-E-N. And throughout the slides and presentation, she had this word on the slide. And people kept laughing, they kept giggling, they were not listening. So the communication was not happening. So later on, what we suggested to her is, for in future, just use the word seafarer. So when you say female seafarer or male seafarer, don't use the word semen, because even when you say it or even when you write it, so just one letter went missing, but you can see how communication or miscommunication happened. All right. So of course, I've talked about this already. I've talked about social context, historical context, physical and psychological context. I won't waste too much of your time here. The other important thing I want to talk about communication is that communication not only means person-to-person communication, it also means human to technology communication. Now, why is this important today? Because you know that people are working on autonomous vessels, fully autonomous, semi-autonomous. There are 4 stages now, and they expect to reach a fully autonomous status as well. But as the automation on ships increases, that means you are basically going to communicate with technology, right? Already you have fully integrated bridge management systems, fully integrated engine room management systems. You have all the equipments connected to one another. They are all talking to one another. You are getting all these alarms, these sensors, these lights are, but this is useless if there is information overload, or what we know as information paralysis. So what happens with information overload is, when so much information is thrown at you, now you don't know how to prioritize the correct information, you are not focusing on the correct information, and you go on and actually not use the technology correctly. So for deck officers, I can tell you is that you are looking at all these equipments, you're looking at the AIS, you're looking at the radars, you're looking at the electronic plotters. You forget to look out your bridge window, and you forget to keep a good lookout, because remember, technology at the end of the day is as good as you, the user. If you don't set your radar settings correctly, you will not be able to detect vessels correctly. So vessel, there will be collisions, right? Similarly with engineers as well, there will be a lot of alarms, lot of sensors, lot of lights, but you have to go and identify the equipment in terms of the priority, how it is affecting the voyage or how it is going to affect the ship. So that's why don't only limit the communication process. Don't think it's only human to human. It's also you with the technology. All right. So, and that's why I put a photo of the cell phone, because these days we are spending a lot of time on our tablets, computers, cell phones, but ask yourself how much of it is very effective for communication and how much of it you have to keep aside, not focus on, otherwise there will be information paralysis. So today I'm throwing a lot of information at you. I don't know how much of it you have registered, but you have to register the important information. All right, and that's why I start with the unit outline first, because that time your attention is maximum. Right now, you're probably starting to doze off, you're getting bored, so I can discuss this lecture. Anyhow, I'll keep going. Then there are certain barriers to communication. The first one is perception. And again, if you were in class, I would have asked you, what do I mean by perception or how it affects it? So the perception is your experience on how you see things. So each one of us have a different perception to a situation. Why I'm sharing this is that when you work as a senior officer, you will sail with people who you may not get along very well on a personal level. You are not there to make friends. People will have an opinion different from yours. That doesn't mean they are wrong. It also doesn't mean that you are wrong. All right. So people will have different perception. They have different opinions, and they should be feeling free to share those opinions based on their experience, their understanding, their attitude, and their motive or expectation. But you have to make sure you keep it professional. Even if it opinion differs from yours, it all comes down to the documentation, the SMS, how things should be done. But people will communicate. If you introduce, I'll give you an example. One of the companies introduced that you have to wear life jackets on the deck. Whenever you go on deck, you must wear life jackets. Now the captain communicated it and said that I don't really care what you guys do, but this is what the company wants you to do. But that is not the right way to communicate, right? So a lot of people miscommunicate, and they came back and saying, Captain, it's very uncomfortable for us to walk on deck with life jackets, so we are not going to wear it. So at that point of time, your communication and their communication is different. So that point of time, you have to sit down and tell that person that, all right, I understand you don't want to wear the life jacket because it's uncomfortable, but this is a company circular, this is a company document, it's not coming from me. So you have to make sure you follow it, because tomorrow if something goes wrong, the company will not pay your insurance, or the company will come back to you and say that you did not follow the instructions. So this is what I'm talking about, different perceptions. So an example to a perception to communication in this. So if you look at the slide, the prominent, what you see prominently is saying that we would rather do business with 1,000 terrorists than with one single soldier. Now, if you just look at this, you will think, what is this business all about? But this was a funeral sign, a funeral business. This was a sign posted outside a funeral business, a funeral home rather. And this is what I was talking about. This is an example of a perception. So if you look at something from your point of view, it may be different from what it actually is, or two people might look at a sign and think about it differently, or look at a, or think about a communication. So make sure you communicate. This is a barrier to communication. All right. Then we have cultural differences. Like I said, cultural differences is a lot to do with eye contact, gestures, and there will be people who will not be making eye contact. There are many cultures where people don't make eye contact when they are talking, especially when they're talking to a higher authority, a senior officer, a senior manager, and you may think it's dodgy or you cannot trust that person, but that is a normal thing for that person in that culture. So make sure you're aware of it. That's why I said it's important for you to interact with people of as many cultures as possible, especially when you're a senior officer, and before you become a senior officer, be aware of the gestures, the sign language. I've given you this example already. Sometimes communicating certain phrases, certain words are considered offensive in another culture, and we have to be very mindful of that culture. I don't expect you to know about everything, but at least if you find out that something is offensive, then be respectful towards it, apologize, don't get your ego just because you're a senior officer and then say that this is not what I meant it in another way. So the example I always give is the word bastard is very casually thrown around in certain Western cultures. So they will say, you silly bastard or something like that. But actually in certain cultures like Asian cultures and all, it's considered to be a very offensive phrase. So this is just an example, but there could be many examples as well. All right. Filtering is very important to you guys as well. What is filtering? When one receives an information and then filters it as per their own interpretation. Is also called Chinese whispers or translation. So for example, you give an instruction to the deck cadet without writing it down, or you give an instruction to a trainee engineer, and that person has now, or you ask the person to pass on instruction to somebody else, that person has heard you and then misunderstood you and then filtered that information and passed on another information based on his or her interpretation. That is called filtering, when your information is not passed on exactly for what it is. And like I said before, this thing will happen a lot on the ships. That's why I said, try and use written instructions as much as possible. That's why you have standing orders, standing instructions, you have night orders, because written instructions work better than verbal. Also, if you are using verbal instructions, sometimes, of course, there's no time, you're rushing, there's lots to do. Make sure the other person has repeated it and both of you are on the same page, rather than that person interpreting their own message and passing it on, which will create confusion. That's correct. You're right. This is a good joke. All right. Like this is an example, right? So Simone has discussed one example and this is another one. This came out in the newspaper and you can see how it can create a confusion. So this is in the newspaper. This is a journalist and I'm sure they meant something else, but how it came out in the newspaper is something else altogether, right? So you get an idea of how communication can happen. And again, this is a English speaking in English newspaper, and you can find many examples like that. All right. Then of course we talk about communication, another barrier being emotion. So your emotional state, and of course you guys work on ships. We are more emotional than the landlubbers. We work in a very different environment. It's a high stress environment. It's a very dynamic environment. You're away from your family, your loved ones, your so you are in a different emotional state, or you may have received news from the family. Now that time communicating or is not a good idea. Maybe stress, anger will lead to miscommunication. It will a small communication may get flared up. It may result in a fight. Similarly, I told you before, don't start shooting off emails to the company. If you're upset, maybe you're trying to sign off, the company says, no, I can't sign you off. Of course you are unhappy. Of course you have the right to communicate, but how you word it, how you phrase it is very important. Similarly, tomorrow your juniors, your subordinates will be making mistakes and you want to scold them or you want to tease them. Now at that point of time, maybe that situation or that place is not the correct time. Make sure you choose the correct emotion. Don't start shouting at that person in front of everybody, because that person is also an individual. They may feel disrespected. They may take action. You never know what they will do on that ship, how they will react to your, maybe you mean well, but you're not coming across well because of your emotion. So make sure you manage your emotions before you communicate. This is very important when you are a senior officer. As a senior officer, everybody looks up to you. You are setting the example, you're setting the culture, you're setting the tone on the ship. So you can't be biased, you can't be emotional. Although I know it's hard, but this is the time you start practicing. This is the time you have to be aware of it. So again, all this that we are learning, I'll be putting in the case study, some of it, of course, I will put up examples where you have to identify the barrier to communication and you have to give me suggestions or strategies on how you would address it. All right. So, and then of course, language is the biggest barrier of all. And when I say language, I don't mean two different languages. Sometimes even communicating within the same language will create a barrier to communication. All right. Something that you have to be very aware of, especially as engineers, that what kind of technical terminology that you're using, the jargon, the acronyms, the abbreviations. And this has happened to me also in the past when I used an abbreviation for a particular tank I wanted to be ballasted, and that was based on my last ship. The cadet, of course, misunderstood it, and we started ballasting a different tank altogether. So again, when you're writing standing orders, standing instructions, try not to use acronyms. If you're using acronyms, and the first time, explain it, write the full form of it. So if I just say STCW, many of you may not know what STCW stands for. So similarly, if I say something else. FAL convention. I said FAL convention. Many of you don't know what FAL convention is. So FAL convention stands for facilitation of maritime traffic. And it will be hard. It would have been hard for you to guess the acronym based on FAL. FAL doesn't have facilitation of maritime traffic. So that's why I said don't use acronyms or abbreviations or short forms if it's going to be hard for the other person, or just don't assume that they will understand. All right. So all mariners, not all mariners, but everyone should be aware of feedback. Now, feedback is the only way for you to ensure that your message has passed. Active listening. So when you're speaking, you speak, but when the other person is speaking, you have to listen, and you have to be very active listeners. Now, I know it all sounds very good in theory, but I actually mean it. And why I say active listening, these days, of course, with cell phones, iPads, computers, we are so distracted. We are not even listening to our spouses, our friends, when they are speaking to us. We are constantly looking at the phone. It's very disrespectful, firstly. And secondly is that when somebody is trying to speak something to you, when they're trying to convey something to you, when you listen, when you observe, you can notice the body language. You can watch out for the key phrases. These days, a lot of incidents related to depression is happening on the ship. Seafarers are being, suffering from a lot of mental health issues. And, when you observe people, you can actually look out for the signs, the phrases. Are they asking for help? Are they really distressed? Or what are they trying to say? So you feel empathy for the speaker. You try to understand them for what they are saying. So you don't listen to them based on your ego. You listen to them for what they are saying. So even if they are correcting you, even if they are unhappy with your leadership, listen to them, and then that will help you to correct your actions. That will be better for you. All right. So maintain eye contact, facial expressions, avoid interruption, let them speak their heart out, and then you can address their concerns one by one. Even if you don't agree with them, be respectful and you address their concerns. All right. All right, great. And finally, the last one is, of course, again, this is all in theory. KISS is keep it simple, stupid, and keep it very simple. Use clear language. On the ship, keep your messages short, crisp, and clear. Just like you speak on the walkie-talkie. Don't do what I am doing here. I'm talking for the last couple of hours. That will not help you. Keep your messages short. Make sure that everybody understands it. So tomorrow, if you have a case study where I'm asking you to give me strategies and suggest strategies on how you communicate in a particular scenario, then think about how you can get through your message, whether it's through written, whether it's through verbal, and how you can speak less or write less and get your message across. All right, so I'll keep it short, guys. I don't want to keep it too long. It's very boring, just you listening to me and me talking. Try to make it funny, try to put in some slides, try to put in some jokes, but I know it's very boring. I would be bored if I was you just trying to listen to a person. All right, so I'll stop this lecture here, but I am available here to answer your queries, your concerns, and otherwise you are free to go. I'll see you next Friday. Today I will send you out that document, that Google document, for you to put in your names and to start sharing your groups. And please be a bit active. I will also put up a discussion post which you should comment on. Otherwise, wait for the next discussion post. Don't be conscious. Don't think people are reading your work and they're judging you. Nobody has the time. Just put in whatever you want to. Just analyze it with a free mind. Just give your experience. Even if you disagree with me, even if you agree with me, just feel free. We are all learning here. And it'll be interesting for me to read. And then I will give you my answer, of course, and you can critique it if you want. So the whole idea is to keep it interesting and not boring, and you to be engaged with this. Otherwise, the best thing is to learn. And yes, please make sure that you go on my YouTube channel and subscribe it. But yeah, I'll give you the link to today's recording through the YouTube as well, and I'll send you a private link. All right. See you guys. Bye.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Hey, Rob. Good to see you. Bye.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Nice lecture.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Sam. Have a good weekend.
All right. Thanks. Thanks. Same to you.
How you going, Sam?
Hey, good, Rob. Good to see you. A long time no see, buddy.
Yeah, good to see you too, mate. I
right.
missed the first hour or two. I was out on deck. I'm at sea at the moment.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. So everything is being recorded. So I just want to quickly tell you that this is also being recorded. So I'm recording the lecture. I'll put it up on Milo. You can watch it. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions after that. I'll be
Awesome.
happy.
Thank you very much, mate. All right. We'll see you soon.
Thanks everyone. Thank you who are sending the messages. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Sam. Have a good weekend.
You too. Thank you very much, Nicole.
Okay, so thank you so much. Very informative lecture. See you soon.
Oh, thanks, buddy. Thanks, Bedi. Thank you very much, buddy. Yeah, if you have any questions or concerns, yeah, feel free to just send an email or just, yeah, thanks.
Sure, sure. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. I've already sent a mail to Neil, sir, already. I've marked him a mail. So when I'll get on the assignment and the case study after that only, because I'm not able to access anything at the moment.
Yes, absolutely. Kunal, I've noted down your name and
Yes, sir. Do you need my student ID for any purpose, sir?
No, yeah, no, I can't do anything, unfortunately, unless they tell me to add you. Only then I can add you, or you will get the access automatically, but I can't do it.
Yes, sir, because I have not on my end from the college. Just confirmation of enrollment is received. After that, I have not received anything from the college regarding my admissions.
Sure. Yeah, I'll just keep me posted on how you're going, but yeah, Kim and Neil will help you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so
much.
much.
No worries. Thanks, buddy. Bye.
Bye, sir.
Again, Sam.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Thank you very much. Thanks, buddy. Bye.
It must be very hard for you, Sam. You don't have any feedback from the entertainment. You're used to talking to a crowd and hearing the laughs come back.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, who am I without my stand-up? So I'm no one. So that's why.
I know, this is what I look forward to in your classes, the jokes. I don't come for the education, I come from the laughter.
Yeah, exactly. When they told me I have to deliver this, especially this unit, where there's no math or anything, I have to deliver it online. I was, oh my God, the students are going to hate me. This is a dry topic. There is no jokes. I can't make fun of anybody. They won't like to attend it. So yeah, you're right. I'm missing my audience and I'm missing my stand-up.
Oh, well, we're still getting some jokes come through, so it's all good.
All right. Thanks, Travis. See you next time.
Thanks a lot. See you next time.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. That's great. See you next time.
All right. Thanks, Darren. Bye. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me. Otherwise, feel free to leave the meeting. I will end the meeting only when all of you have left. If you were shy to ask me any questions during the class time, you can ask me now.
Sam, I loved your videos.
Oh,
I used them last semester for a refresher. Yeah, I used them so many times, and it was really, really good. Loved it.
That's awesome.
You're a very good teacher.
Oh, thank you, Bianca. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Are you an engineer, if you don't mind my asking?
No, I'm a deck officer.
Okay, then that's why you found it useful. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I asked the engineers to subscribe as well, but the engineers must be like, but this is not helping us. But I still ask them. I still force them to subscribe.
I've subscribed now, so
thank you so much.
I've done it.
Thanks,
yeah. So it was a long time between doing my second mates and my mate's masters. So I really needed the revision.
Oh, that's awesome. And Bianca, I mean, I mentioned it to all my students that at the risk of sounding arrogant, if you need any help with any other subject, just reach out. If you think that you're not getting the help you should be getting, just reach out. I'm happy to guide you in any subject that I have knowledge of. So yeah, all the best.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed them because it explained a lot of things, a lot of questions I had. And yeah, you did it a really good way. So just thanks for that.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Bianca. All the best with your studies.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, Sam. I'm Priyan here.
Hi, buddy.
Sam, just one question we offered during my selling time. Actually, as per my master, he was saying that it's a communication issue.
Yeah.
So what happened was he didn't write in night orders, but he was saying verbally to me when I was doing the night watch. Morning, I have to do the grid washing. Like I have to go on high RPM because he will not come in the morning. He will come a little later, but he said he will give you a call at 8 o'clock when I used to give a wake-up call.
Right.
So he said you have to do the grid washing because that time we'll get the open sea.
Okay.
So what happened was chief mate was there 4 to 8, and he has actually master has called early around 7 o'clock. So he asked the situation outside. He was like, that time we were going on slow steaming. Actually, to go slow steaming, you need to take permission. So he
Right.
was going on slow steaming because of the visibility issue.
Okay.
But he didn't tell chief mate about the grid washing issue and that we have to go on high RPM. So chief mate has said that visibility is reduced, so we are going like this. So what you want me to do? Then he was like, okay, you go like this. So tell third mate to give me a call at 10 o'clock.
Right.
So what happened was around 8:39 he called me and he was asking, did you do the grid washing? I was like, no, chief mate handed over to me. But before taking over, I asked chief mate, what about the speed and all, whether we need to increase this thing. He was like, no, I didn't ask about the grid washing. I just asked whether we need to increase speed. But I didn't ask grid washing. So he was like, no, master told to go like this because visibility is reduced. So he will give a call at 10 o'clock. That time you confirm what else need to be done. So he called me 9:30 and he asked and he said, okay, this is not supposed to happen. I will come up on bridge. So he came and he called chief mate also and he told this thing should not happen. I told you to do the grid washing start 8 o'clock because you cannot go super slow steaming for so long. This and that he was telling, and he is saying I will be also held responsible if something happens. So is it true or not?
Not really. I mean, it's difficult. See, this is not good leadership. That's why I'm saying that if they talk to you like that, that's not the right way. They cannot say that you will be blamed.
But I was arguing, sir, with not arguing means I was telling that why I will be held responsible because I clearly took instructions from chief mate. He handed over me like this, and I was supposed to call you at 10 o'clock and get information again. So it was a 1 hour, 2 hour gap, but I know there's a delay. But there was no ETA issue also.
But see, this is what I'm saying is that if everything happened verbally, that is the problem. If tomorrow something goes wrong, it will be their word against your word. So did you have something written from any one of them which helped to prove your case, which helped you to argue that, see, I have this written with me and this is what they told me to do. And that is the problem, that on the ship, if we do everything verbally, it's fine if nothing goes wrong. But when something goes wrong, then it's your word against their word. So that's why I said any communication which is related to operational thing, you must get it in writing.
So how to get that thing in writing? Like normally they don't write in the logbook also, except for the VDR recording. What chief officer handed over to me at night time, what captain told me.
Yeah.
That's it. I have for evidence.
That's the thing. So immediately, so when your senior is telling you to do something, then write it down. You write it down. You could write it down in the logbook if you want to. So see, people often misunderstand why that logbook is there and what you can put in that logbook. So you can have a work logbook and you can say that, chief, this is what I've understood. Can you just put an initial, especially when these operational circumstances. But that's what I'm saying is that if you can't do that, if you can't do, you can't write down the instructions because you are saying that there's so much going on, I don't have the time to write down, then you have to have some kind of evidence that this communication has taken place. Because when things go wrong, that is the problem. When things go wrong on the ship, everybody starts to play the blame game. You will blame on you will blame on somebody else. And at that point of time, whoever has evidence will be saved. So when it is these delicate operational things, I know that it's not possible to get written instructions, but then what you can do is that you can write it down and tell the chief officer that this is what I've understood. Can you just put initial? You take the initiative. You take the effort. You make the effort. You get my point? So
yeah. So that means I have to make my personal note and take at least a signature from the taking over or handing over guy. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you know why this is important is because when you also become senior officer and you are passing on instructions, maybe this time you will be right. So if you put those instructions down and you ask them to countersign, you have something. So always you have to think about it. If things go wrong, what will happen? So if things go wrong, they will definitely blame you. You will blame them. Now the company will have to decide, but who gets saved? Whoever has a document. So yes, I know it's hard, I know it's challenging. I have worked on the ship as well. I know it's not possible. But then you are the one who's worried about a certain person. You know you cannot trust this guy. Then you start taking the initiative. You write down the instruction. You say, Chief, this is what I have understood. Can you read this and just put your initial? And even if they don't provide the initial, you just write there, Chief didn't provide the initial. You save yourself. You don't have to tell the other person that, yes, I don't trust you. But from your side, you do the documentation that is required.
Yeah, correct, sir. Right. Thank you, sir. Just want to
All right.
clarify that.
Yeah, sure. No worries, buddy.
Yeah. Thank you.
No, bye.
Bye.
Bruce, Ed, Wong, Carl, Gunmi, Priyan. So you're happy for me to leave? End the meeting? You have no questions?
Yes, I'm leaving. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
All right. See you then. Bye. So I'll end the meeting today. The recording finishes here. Bruce, anything to say?
Yes, sir.
No questions?
I'll be glad if you can send the recording to me, sir. Hello, sir.
Okay, good. All right. So I'll end the meeting then. Bye, guys. See you.
Bye-bye.